Well, it's very nice to have you here. It's great. This is the first time for me, for those of you that know me. You'll know, some of you will know the story quite in depth, and others may not know. We'll try and fill in the gaps as we go along. And the reason does anybody feel that they've been summoned today? So good, thank you. I just thought I'd let you know why I'm doing this today. There's three reasons, and this I'm kind of cheating if I'm honest, because being the first event, you will not know what you need to do because it's not like any of you are professional speakers, or are you? No, so I can cheat. So the reason I brought you in today is to get some practice on speaking, because I'd like to have a stab at a speaking career, but I really don't know if I'm going to be any good if I'm honest. And I just thought it'd be a nice way to get also some feedback from people that I trust. That's you. And because some of you will know and others may not know, I've been asked to do a TV interview connected to my DJ career, which I thought would be a great way to try and get some speaking gigs in the future by providing some footage. And this interview, they've asked me to provide a DVD. Well, I didn't have a DVD, and I still don't at this point, but I will do because I've now collected some DJ footage, and I'm going to have some speaking footage tonight, thanks to Joe. So that's the reason why I brought you on in here, and I thought it'd be good to test on people that I know, because you'll be honest with me, hopefully. You won't make it up. Fingers crossed. And I just thought I'd do a little small talk on behind the book, really. Where is it? Here it is. So I think Jane is probably the newest person to see this, but for those of you that have or not seen my book, there we are. This is the latest edition, the latest cover, so I'm very pleased that that came in time, bearing in mind that the designer is also working on a ship, and the trials and tribulations of which are getting internet and wanting to send an email, oh it's not going to send, you can't get online, and it's a bit of a nightmare. So some of the things that we take for granted on land, we have lots of different challenges. So I'm just so grateful that that came in time today. So how many people have actually ever wanted to be on a cruise ship? Helen, okay. How many people have been on a ship? You two have.
Oh, I wouldn't view it.
But you still went on it, okay. And I understand from Jane that you were looking at considerably working on there at some point. Yes, indeed. Very good. Well, this was the very first ship that I got to go on. This is by Royal Caribbean, and it's the Legend of the Seas. And I was lucky that I remember this was 2006, and I was looking for a holiday, and I was not planning it, if I'm honest, because that's probably one of my downfalls at the time. And I decided I want to go on holiday. I want to go on my own because nobody was available to come with me. So I thought, okay, what kind of a holiday? And at the time, my neighbours, Betty and Brian, the lovely Betty and Brian, they, Michelle, you need to go on a cruise, you need to go on a cruise. So when I realised this, I thought that'd be a cool idea. It's nice and safe, you know, I think, okay, well, I can visit lots of different countries. I really wasn't bothered where we went. I just thought, okay, I'll go on it. And needless to say that actually turned out to be one of the best holidays I ever had. And that was my home for 2 weeks. It was really cool. We went around the Mediterranean. And I don't think I had any expectations of the cruise itself, and I just went because it was a holiday, and I was just quite pleased to be around lots of different people, and that was quite a nice thing to do. On that holiday there was lots of things I kept seeing where people, oh, you should work on a ship, you should work on a ship, and I'm thinking, oh, that'd be really cool, that'd be really cool, but I wasn't quite ready to do it. So 2 years fast forward, I was ready. I thought, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have a go. And needless to say, I say that quite a bit, though, so that's one of my words, needless to say, okay. I have now just completely forgotten what I was going to say. I was doing all right there, it all put me off. Who can I blame? Yeah, I know, nervous.
Sure, there's a big picture of the entertainment.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to come to that, but I was going to read from the book. So, what does everybody think to the uniform? How attractive is that?
Not very.
No. It's funny because when I showed some of the people that I worked with on princess ships, they all turned around and went, I can't believe it's as hideous as that. They thought theirs was bad, but when they saw mine, well, not that great. And not that all of you will be aware of this, but I had to work and DJ in this uniform. How hot was I in the nightclub? Less the hat and less the scarf, but as you see it, that's what I had to DJ in, okay? So if I'd have known that, I'd probably said, no, definitely not, I'm not doing that. but it was I had a fun time. I got told a lot. I got told off for being too overpowering on the gangway. So as I'm welcoming people onto the ship, I mean, for most of you that know me, I'm very, I want to get people welcome on. I want to get them excited for the holiday. And I was really happy that they were joining the ship. But of course, what happened is that I got, no, you can't do that, Michelle. You can't do that. Like people don't want that. People don't want that. But then when they were gone, I did it, and it worked really well. They liked it. So that was that was the uniform that I wore. I had lots of. I would say some of the moments that really stand out for that ship was actually meeting some, well, probably, I think there'd be C or D listed celebrities. One of them being, I've forgotten her name now, the famous Charlie Dimmock. Yeah? She was on
Lady
one cruise. Lady what?
Lady Gardner.
Lady Gardner, yeah, all right. Not being a gardener or programme watcher, so thank you, Dad. What I liked about her particularly is that she gave me £40 tip.
Did you know?
Yes, I thought I was clearly, and all I did was play songs that she asked for. I thought, well, that's no skin on mine. I can do that last time. So that was one of the good times. Another person that I met. Does anybody watch Brookside or did watch Brookside? I don't even know if it's still on. To be honest, probably not. Sinbad, the character. You may recognise him. In fact, it's on that one. There we
He
are.
was in something else as well, wasn't
Pardon?
he? He was in something else.
Possibly so. So you may recognise him. He was on the ship, but I didn't get any tips from him.
He went on Korean for holiday.
Did he?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I mean, just some of these pictures are just random people that I met and I got acquainted with while I was away. This was a wedding that I did at the time, and what I liked particularly about them is they introduced me to a song. They asked me for a song, and I actually really liked it. I'd never heard of it, and it's the Travelling Wilburys, End of the Line, if anybody's heard of it. Yeah? Roy Orbison, somebody from Yellow, I don't remember who they got.
Yeah, I don't know them.
I can't remember, no, I can't remember. So they, for me, stand in my mind, that song reminds me of their holiday really, because it was all about them. Well, these were the Caribbean parties. How would you like to work in one of them costumes? Bit random. And then this is just family that came on board that I spent some time with, and we hung around together. I spent a bit of money and things you do, I guess, when you're on holiday.
I love Flower Benjamin, don't forget Flower.
Oh, you know, that was, thank you, Dad. That was the one I wanted to remember. I luckily got a call from the cruise director who said, we've got, well, if you can, some of you might even know not who it is. There was an old children's presenter on, go on, Di, what was it? The programme, do you remember? Play Away or Play School?
Play School.
Play School, yeah. And Floella Benjamin was the children's presenter. I got wind that she was coming on the ship, and she says, we need somebody to escort her onto the ship. And I thought, that's so cool, that's so cool. So personally escorting her was just greeting her at the gangway as she came in, and I took her to a cabin. Unfortunately, that particular week, 2 days previously, she just found out that her mum had died. So, and her mum was actually supposed to be with her on a cruise, so it was quite a sad time for her. So I did my comforting thing as you do, and I spent time with her and made sure that the flowers were there. So that was a really nice thing to actually personally get to greet her on. That was the best. That was my favourite celebrity. Other pictures include, I have to say, there's some really very funny moments. We do. On the P&O ships that I was doing, it was part of the sail away, and it was a British sail away every time we left from Gibraltar. And so, of course, somebody decided that it'd be great fun to put this little boy with all the flags, and he looks really happy, doesn't he? I don't think I'd be that happy, bless him. And then some old ladies that I met and people, and this was my cabin, my first cabin. I don't know if you can quite see. What's interesting is that even though I changed ships throughout my time on the sea, what I found is that the cabins didn't really change. Pretty much standard throughout, no matter whether it's a British or an American ship. The main, even with the PowerPoints, because on the American ships you've got more. Even though they're, I always get confused. The two straight pins for the American, isn't it? Yeah, they have more of the European ones on than they do the straight pins one, which I find a bit strange. So that was my cabin. I got ever so used to it, and I miss my cabin. It's nice and small. And again, these are just some random pictures. I mean, I couldn't not take a picture of this one. Don't know the guys, but they were just doing something very strange and interesting on the beach. So Well, I took a picture quite simply. And Tower of Pisa. And some monkeys on the top of the rock. Can you see the pictures better all over here? One of my favourite times, Acapulco. I got to release a baby turtle into the ocean. That was really sweet. And there was hundreds of them. We were all lining up, and we were all given a turtle, and then we just released it basically onto, and that became my favourite beach. Who would like to be there?
I presume they were quite happily making their own way to the sea, and
Yeah.
someone picked them up.
Yeah. But yeah, when I saw that picture, so picturesque. Who like escape there? Yeah.
Yes.
Anybody? Yeah. Very very nice. And we were there was quite a lot of us on this tour. So surprisingly, it was just beautiful. And then Monte Carlo. I think you may remember, Dad, when I was saying about the Grand Prix, walking the Grand Prix track. It's quite exciting. It seems like so long ago though now. So that's just some of them on the first ship that I went on, the first company that I worked for. And then I went over to let me tell you this one. This is funny. I go on tours with people, with passengers, and of course it gets a bit exhausting at times. So a nice passenger kind of took this one of me. Thought I'd like a copy of it. Well, well, whatever, you know. Hey, I'm only normal. I'm only human even. So that was that. So on to Princess and the American ships, the American way. Very different, a lot more different nationalities to cope with. Whereas I've got a British audience on P&O, so I was quite used to the requests. Going over to the American ships, which is what I did in 2009, got my first Princess contract. So the music being asked for from the Americans and other people became so diverse that I began to understand that the music between British people and American people, obviously the charts differ, and I found that the requests that were coming in, I haven't got a clue what they're asking me for. I'm thinking, what's that? And of course, I say, I'm sorry, I don't have that. A lot of the time, they were quite pleasant about it, and they were okay, and they were accepting of it. And then towards Christmas on the Caribbean cruises, they were all a little bit annoyed, and Americans. And I don't know if you've had this problem, Dad, or Glenn, when you've been dealing with them. They don't like to be told no, do they? No. So when they asked me for a song and I said, I'm sorry, I don't have that, well, of course, that's not good enough. And I need to provide an alternative. But I wasn't able to if I didn't know the song. Well, you know, what kind of style is that? And of course, in America, they have different style types, genres to what we do in England. So that became a challenge, and I felt like I was learning about music all again for the first time. So I was so used to knowing and predicting what the British would like, whereas the Americans, it was just completely all over the place. So I lost touch with it all. So how do we get from, you know, working on a ship and as an entertainment officer and DJ to becoming an author? Is when I went back to sea in 2010 in December, a good friend of mine that I met through networking said to me, I was at a point where I was not quite sure of what was happening, and she said, just document your journey, just document your journey. So I went from the minute I left home, and I remember when we left home, Dad, do you remember the snow?
Yes, I do.
I weren't sure we were even going to get to the ships.
No,
Oh my goodness. So we were panicking. To be fair, my fault, I'd not planned in time, thinking, well, my train's leaving at 5 o'clock or something daft, and of course we ended up leaving it a bit late, but by the skin of my teeth we got there within a minute and the train set off. My goodness, I didn't think I was going to make it. So glad I did. And when I got there, lots of changes, because each ship, and it had only been, I think it had been a year and a half between the last Princess contract to the December 2010 when I went away again, and there'd been so many changes. So what you imagine, what you remember from before in terms of the procedures and the operations of how it works together had all changed by the time I got back. And I was in a different, I went from deck 4 to deck 7. I thought, oh, this is really cool. And they said that this is the way that they were doing now for guest DJs. I thought, brilliant, okay, that's cool. And so I was quite lucky. I got a nice double bed. Well, that was just wonderful, because every contract after that, I got a single bed again, back down on deck 4. And I thought, oh, okay, again, this is part of ships, and what you believe to be true when you go one time to the next time, it's all changed. So it's a mindset that you on land don't have, because pretty much you turn up to work and it's like you left it yesterday, but it's not quite like that. So I had to get used to that transition. When I'd been told to document my journey, I started writing on my iPhone because it was a tool that I carried around with me the whole time. And what was interesting is that within, I think there was a natural flow about the writing, and I think it was the first week, I thought, I actually was reading through it after I'd written for days, every day. And then I just sat having a free time and I wrote and I read through it and I thought, this is really exciting. Is this really me? So much was happening in a day that it was hard to kind of document it all down. I was meeting this person, I was meeting this person. Then I was going, and then that just happened. It's like, and it very much, and when obviously on land, you don't get that many changes in a short space of time. So you have a lot of time to digest what's happening on land. On the ship, it's very different because you get sometimes seconds, even minutes, to make a decision because of the changes. So you come away from work believing, right, I'm going to be starting at this time, I'm going to be working in this venue. And then by the time you wake up, there's a message telling you, right, I need you in this outfit, I need you in this venue at this time within a few hours. So it's just change, constant change. But I did enjoy, I like the constant change. So what I was going to do is I was going to share with you some of the writing. This would be about a typical day, but it's about half a day. So I wouldn't dream of reading you the whole day, because that would take forever. Okay. So I thought I'd just start off, and this was actually Dad's birthday last year. So this was the 14th of January. And I've just written here, before I left home 6 weeks ago, my intention was to write a journal of my cruising journey, because that's what I was planning on doing. Within the first week, I'd written 10 pages. And when I read it, it excited me because so much is happening on the ship every minute of every day. 6 weeks in, and I'm up to 70 pages so far. 6 weeks. And I still have another 6 weeks to go. On the ship, I'm constantly faced with new challenges in this role and way of life. But I'm just making the best of it. I'm gaining so many insights about myself, my life, and the world. Not to mention lots of amazing moments that I'm much happier on the ship than at home. I feel creative around people and full of ideas, although do not want to go off on a tangent without thinking it through. I'm experiencing so many different types of experiences that I'm just so inspired to create something that raises awareness of a particular problem and actually solves it at the same time. Whilst I'm learning how to be an author as I go along, and yet to find the right level of help, amazingly I have 3 titles with concepts. A little content, but more importantly, a list of people who are genuinely interested in buying. Finding my direction has been the biggest challenge of all, and following my heart and gut have helped me the most. I just feel more alive than I ever have. The synchronicity that I'm experiencing has been incredible. I get to an elevator and it's waiting for me. I've been thinking about, somebody that I've been thinking about for the day suddenly appears. I think, oh, and processing it just becomes a bit, wow, I was like, okay. But this was every 10 minutes, every hour, something was happening. Or a random conversation, it sheds so much light on something that's been going through my mind. One way or another, it all helps me to get where I really want to be. I have so much time on my hands that I'm only working about 4 hours a day. How many people work 4 hours a day? Who would like to work 4 hours a day? So I spend the day exactly as I choose. Everywhere I go, I observe and listen to people arguing about the pettiest of things, and I can't believe how disrespectful and hurtful people can be. Also, they seem to be unaware of all the beauty that surrounds them, and it can be painful to watch how they speak to their significant others, yet I'm drawn to doing something about it. There just doesn't seem to be enough support for the crew. No one seems to care about what's really important to them. They walk around with their heads down. In fact, one of the parts on the ship, I don't know if I've explained this to anybody, the longest part of the ship, down on deck 4 where all the crew get from one place to another, is called the M1, surprisingly enough. And when I'm walking down, any time I'm down on the M1, people are just, you know, they're just, and it's sad, it's really sad to watch because they're just not happy. And so for some people, it feels like a prison sentence. And that's the truth of it. When all they need is someone to believe in them and encourage them to follow their heart's desires. I would love to be that person. I love to lift their spirits and let them know I believe in them and try to support them in any which way I can. And they just seem to be incredibly grateful that somebody actually cares. I choose to be proactive and productive with my time and have at times wondered if I'm being proactive enough. But that's because no one's really pushing me to where I want to be. But for now, I'm exploring what really matters so that I can create a way of life that is right for me and something that I can be proud of. I aim to get back on track financially before I start spending again, and I've worked out that I could be out of debt completely by December. Actually, it became April. That would be so cool. I don't want to make a quick buck, instead secure work outside of DJing and be recognised for my ability to touch others' lives through connecting, engaging and inspiring others. That's what I wrote on the 14th of January, and that just hopefully might give you some sort of an insight as to where I was and what I was kind of going through at the time. And I just went round, walking around the ships, just what can I do for these people? How can I help them? And I came up with the concept that where the crew members, each time I went for an induction on the earlier ships and certainly when I joined the first ship, it was a case of seeing all these crew members it was the same thing every time I went to a ship, and it was a rabbit in the headlights. And I decided that it's got to stop. I need to do something. If only they had the information beforehand, because when you go for an interview, you'll get bombarded with so much information as you do when you board a ship, but you don't necessarily always get the up-to-date information or information that really can give them feel more secure within the roles. And it's not just a new job, it's a new home. Find out, where are you working today? Where is your cabin? Okay, what are my duties? And you're learning it all on the same day, so you just can't think. So I wanted to provide something that would share what had happened to other people. So I badgered just about anybody that I could find and said, would you be interested in helping me with this project? And what surprised me more than anything is that people were happy to do it. It wasn't an effort to get people involved, they just wanted to just do it and help me out. And they saw, like I did, that they actually needed it. And once I checked all that, I checked a fee in terms of what they would expect to pay. And I think originally I was thinking it'd be about £5, but I decided that'd be a bit too cheap. And so I managed to get a lot of people on board with the project, and I think by the time I came home in August last year, I'd got about 140 people involved. But of course, putting 140 people's stories in is going to be a bit time consuming, to say the least. And really, 140 people, is that just a bit excessive? Yes, it was. So I decided to narrow it down a bit, and I managed to narrow down the 20, plus the people, everybody working on ships at different times were not always contactable. So I tend to pick the people that were staying around and were available when I was ringing, when I could contact them, so they could get back in touch and do a questionnaire. And the questionnaires really started off as a paper version in December 2010. What was interesting is that I think what secured it for me in terms of it being viable was not only had the crew on board said that they'd be happy to buy it. I met a guy called Tyler in Fort Lauderdale when we docked on the cruise when I actually went back to sea in December 2010. I was having humongous problems spending on my credit card. How many times have you been away and not been able to buy something? As your credit card, it's not going to allow you to buy. Does anybody else have that problem, or is it just me? So I'd been to several islands, tried to buy, I wanted to buy a CD here, I wanted to buy this, and 3 times it had not allowed me to do this transaction. And I start to think, okay, am I not meant to have them CDs? Is it not buying it? What's the explanation? And it wasn't until we got to Fort Lauderdale that I decided that I need to spend it on my card. I've come away, and we're only 10 days into the trip. So fortunately, I was doing some other things, and I was just walking along, and I was exploring Fort Lauderdale every time that I went round it. And every time I went round, I got to know a bit more, and I knew where to go. It became like a bit of a Parkgate thing, Fort Lauderdale, because everything was like in reaching distance. Right, I go around that corner, I get to that shop, and I go around there next. So I knew where I was going then. But on this particular day, I'd spotted this Travelex store, and I'm not sure how I could. Has anybody seen well, for our travellers in the room, how would you sum up the Travelex store? Like a money
exchange.
Money exchange. Okay, thank you, Dad. So I went in, not necessarily believing that they would solve my problem, but I just figured I need to sort this problem out. Let's speak to people who deal with money. That'd be a good start. And I did. I went in, and that was my intention. As it turned out, they helped me solve the problem. I got to the bottom of why I couldn't spend on the card, because I learned the Princess, nice as they are, like to deduct £100 from your card as soon as you get on the ship, in case you buy anything on the ship. Right, thanks for telling me. Okay, if I'd have known that, I could have. I bought one of these in the co-op. They do a card that you can prepay dollars on top, or euro one. And so I'd got it. I thought I'd got it all sorted, and I got this card with the 100 and something like $110 on it. And of course, they'd taken $100 out of my account, so I had no money to spend on it. So that's why it was rejected. After we solved that problem, once we naturally got into a conversation, and what turns out, the Tyler that served me is a young guy and his boss, desperate to work on cruise ships, just, oh my God, that'd be so cool. It was really, and I said, how would you like to help me write my book? And he went, really? And I went, yeah. And I must admit, it was an early project back then, but because I'd got enough people around me that said that they'd be interested in doing it, I figured, it'd be nice if anybody, well, actually, no, I didn't think it'd be nice. It's just that the opportunity came when I met Tyler and I found a reason to do it, because somebody actually wanted to go on the ship and he wanted the information, and he became my reason for then making it real. And from then on came the questionnaires around the ship. I printed off these questionnaires. What started off of about, I think, 20 questions, I think in the end turned out to be 50 and more and more and more as the book evolved. And how are we doing for time? Oh my goodness, have I gone over?
No, you're right, 'cause you started late.
Okay. So the more people that were getting involved and the more people that were filling in the questionnaires, to be fair, the questionnaire was so basic in the beginning that it was a new project, so I didn't quite know what it needed to be in it. I just had a vague idea of what I wanted, did the questionnaires, they came back, and they were all happy to, anytime you can help, anytime we can help. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really easy, this is not as difficult. Then came the challenge and the bombshell. The cruise director I was working with got wind of me doing these questionnaires. And there's, in each of the crew members' contract is a clause that you are not allowed, under any reason, under any circumstances, to answer any questions for the media. I didn't quite consider myself to be the media, but I kind of figured it might be connected. So I made a choice. Okay, do I stop this project? And I thought, well, I believe in it, and people have said that they would buy it. People have said that they want to be part of it, and for the bigger reason. I decided to go ahead. However, the cruise director did say to me, you might want to contact this person at head office just before you get too far involved. I thought, okay, cool. So an email goes across to head office. Would it be okay for me to interview the people on board? No. Came the email. Okay, right, okay, so choice. Do I do this? Do I not? Do I listen to what they say? If I had have listened to what they said and actually not gone ahead, this book wouldn't be at the stage that it is now. And I've managed, fortunately, to get round the clause. And luckily, the book is going ahead. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I can kind of share about it. The cover, that would be a great one. The cover was quite random. I knew obviously this book was coming together, and I figured I've got an idea what I want. It needs to look like a book. The content was coming together nicely. I needed to get a cover together. So I thought, okay, well, I need somebody who can draw, who can paint. So I went up for lots of cups of tea, as I do when I'm on the ship. And I went up, got the cup of tea, came back down, passed through the gallery, and I thought, oh right, I'll just check if anybody knows if anybody can paint. Do you know anybody that can draw on the ship? Yes, you need to speak to Ed in the gallery. So off I go to the gallery, which happens to be about 100 yards apart, really. And fortunately, at that point, Ed was there waiting, and Ed. To be fair, I didn't know him, and I said, is Ed around? I got to see Ed, and I said, I understand that you do some drawing or painting. He says, yes. I said, well, look, I'm putting a book together and I need a cover. And he says, do you know what you want? I said, yeah, I've got a vague idea. As it turned out, he's got a website full of paintings, and we were happening to dock in, I think it was Aruba the following day, and we were both in Dunkin' Donuts doing his Wi-Fi. And he said, Michelle, come and have a look at this. So he brought his laptop over, showed me a few pictures, and amazingly, I should have brought the original picture, that would have been good. This guy in the picture is Ed. He is a self-portrait. He paints himself in the pictures. Before the ship and the sea and the sky was a railway station. That's his original picture. As soon as I saw his original picture, I said, that's exactly what we need. So that then became the format, the starting point. It was only a few months later and different ships that I got talking to different people who were then able to introduce me to a new designer who said, okay, we'll do this. We can actually we can do all sorts of things. I'll tell my friend about it. Conversation after conversation after conversation, got his number. I said, look, this is what we've got so far. We got confirmation and permission from Ed that we could use his picture, and this is what happened. This is how it came out. So, whilst it's not in its finished state, there are a few more tweaks to do. It does have the new blurb on the back, which I redrafted because the old one was a bit pathetic, really, quite simply. But it's one of those things that's it's grown as it's gone on. I had this idea at the beginning what it was going to do, but in its finished state, it will be slightly different to what I set out to do. But the thing is, I believed in the product, I believed in the project, and for the greater reason, I want to help people understand what being at sea is really like. And this book is geared up towards people who want to work on ships, but there is plan to do a passenger one as well. And there's actually a website as well, which will come later in shipslife.co.uk for crew members who need a community to speak to, because what I found, having not known anybody who'd been to sea before, it would be nice to be able to ask questions in a much more informal setting. So post a question online, so then somebody who's been there can actually then send one back. So that really, I believe, the one thing I was going to mention is that back when I just started writing, within a week, what happened is my iPhone started playing up. I lost a whole week's blog. That's 10 pages in real terms. That was quite a challenging time. What I chose to do is I could have got really upset about it. I was gutted. There's 10 pages. Okay, well, I just got to remember what's actually happened here. Okay, well, that happened, and I basically just started reeling it all off. But that was a tough time. But I got through it, and I decided to go forward, and I just feel that my heart's in this project, and a lot of people that have seen it already know what I've put into this book. It means a lot to me, and I know it'll mean a lot to other people. So, I'm just going to refer back to this because I have been living the dream, but I tell you what, it may not be plain sailing, but it's a lot better, more exciting than living someone else's. Thank you very much. Please clap.
Where did you find a ship with a name like that?
Where did I find a ship?
With a name like that?
What do you mean?
What's it called?
I'll tell you what, the original title, So You Want to Work on a Cruise Ship. Ed said, no, we need shorter. I went, yeah, understand that. But it was already selling it, So You Want to Work on a Cruise Ship. But no, I'd definitely go with that one. Has anybody got any questions?
When's it going to print?
I'd like to get it out before the 2nd of June. My goal is to get it out before my birthday, which is on the 6th, and I turn 40, so it's quite a milestone, and I want to be a published author by the time I'm 40. So that's why I'm pushing to get it out. And this TV interview that came up, it would be an ideal, I could have turned it down or postponed it, but I kind of wanted to push it. I wanted to put myself forward for something as challenging as this. It's not actually as scary as you think. Hopefully nobody fell asleep. Any questions that anybody would like to ask? No. Well, that's it then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What I would like is, if you're all interested and happy to do so, I need your honest feedback on today.
You don't want any deposits then?
No, I don't want any. No. No, I don't want any money off anybody. It was a free event. I just put the cookies in the Jaffa cake. What I've got is these feedback forms that are attached to a raffle ticket. And each raffle ticket is going to be put into a drawer, and I'm offering a free book for the lucky winner. So I'm just going to pass it. In fact, you can just pass them around to you. And pens.
Do we have to fill them in now?
Before you leave.
So where would you go if you were thinking of working on a cruise ship?
Yeah.
And I've looked on the online.
Yeah.
There's some discrepancy as to where you would actually go to get a reputable thing.
Yeah.
Some people are wanting money up front for information and that
I found this.
where would you go that's reputable and you're going to get the truth?
Personally, I would. Part of this is to help people recognise to do the research. And what I found is I went direct to the cruise line. So you might want to check, there's so many cruise lines now. You know, do you want to work on a really big ship? What size ship would you like to work on, you know? Thousands or hundreds of passengers. That's the first thing. Find out what the companies have got on offer, because each line has got different things. They've all got pros and cons, every one of them. But look at the clientele. What clientele would you want to be serving? Yeah, exactly. Because, for example, like Princess and P&O they're quite medium in terms of this. It's a good service that they offer, and each company specialises in one particular thing that they excel at more than anything else. And Princess, who I've had the most experience with, they're very hot on customer service.
Right.
So if you want to work on, if that's an area that you want to do more of, then I would say that'd be a good line to try. It's an American company, but to be fair, in all fairness, I have no regrets. I started with P&O. I don't have any regrets starting with P&O because it was British, it was familiar. It was only when I went to Princess that I was working with a whole new ball game of different people, and the passengers were a lot more multicultural than British, obviously. So they weren't as whinging, like British are when they go, oh, British. So again, just do your research, just find out what it is you want. I would go direct to the line. Now, just because there's no jobs being advertised doesn't mean that you can't get a job. Because I proved, as I've written on the back of part of the opening on the back, I secured a position within, I think it was about 2.5 weeks, in all fairness. After making that decision, because I checked on, I think it was P&O that I was advised originally from my neighbours, Betty and Brian, and that turned into, okay, well there's no jobs going, okay. Oh, the first one was Royal Caribbean, because here I'd sailed with Royal Caribbean. That's why I applied to first. And I just went online. No jobs being advertised, and I thought, okay, well I'll give it a try. When I got to actually email them direct, I got an email back within 12 hours. I sent it off late the night before, and I got a response by 8 o'clock the following morning. That just blew me away. They were asking me to reapply in 4 weeks. And I didn't want to wait 4 weeks. I wanted to actually make it a little quicker. And that's when I then went to P&O, because Betty and Brian were saying, oh, try P&O. Went to P&O, and I got a letter back then within 2 weeks to say, we'd like you to come down for an audition. And it was 4 days later then that I got the job. So in the space of 3 weeks from that decision, I got the sorted. But then it took 3 months for me to for my ship to come in. So I would definitely recommend applying direct. Even if there's no jobs. Failing that, there's lots of. If you have to pay, don't do it.
Right,
that would be my advice, because you shouldn't have to. But there's lots of scams out there that are charging. The charges tend to come from different nationalities. So when the Filipinos apply, when the Indians apply, they have to pay, and Serbia, they have to pay a fee to get on the ship. And they have to pay for the visas, and sometimes it's in the region of about $1,000 for them, just to apply. So I didn't pay anything, and I don't see why you should have to. Not saying that is the right or wrong way to go. That's what worked for me, but there's ways in. You don't need to. But I'd like to set up a community where people can ask all these questions and so. But I don't consider myself to be an expert on getting a job on the ship.
No.
But I'm happy to share how it worked for me. It's more a case of, I want to introduce you to what you can expect when you get there, really. So, you're very welcome. Yay. God, and I didn't need much water, I'm surprised. If anybody wants to have a look at the feedback that I got from the passengers, I collected it in a nice little booklet here. So as you can, for every cruise, the passengers then, there's 2 ways that the passengers can actually report the feedback of how they found that cruise. They get given a questionnaire at the end of every cruise, where each department is divided into sections, and they have to score what they thought to the entertainment, what they thought to the food, what they thought to this venue, and so you end up with this scores at the end. And if an entertainer is not got high scores, then they don't come back. So luckily for me, on top of that, they also get the option of filling in these. Each line calls it something different, but for P&O it's called an Outstanding Performance Award. Now, me being cheeky would say to people, if you really liked what I do, will you do me a favour for this? I'm trying to get an award. And I was genuinely trying to get an award. What I realised is if you have to do something really, really drastic to get an award, you have to save somebody's life. And of course, playing music, you don't really save. I think I'm saving somebody's life, and people would say, "Yeah, that's so cool. You played your favourite song," but don't quite see it like that. So, if anybody wanted to have a look at that, then these are just some of the passenger comments that have come, and then pass it round if anybody wants to have a look. And that's what I've collected over the last 3 years. Yeah. Any other questions? No.